Have you ever known exactly what you needed and then done the complete opposite? Hmm. You know that you needed rest, and then you pushed and you pushed and you didn't rest. Guilty as charged. You knew that you wanted to, needed to say no, but you said yes anyway. You knew that you needed to have a difficult conversation, someone that you love, even someone that's easy to approach. And then you just kept avoiding it because it was difficult. Most of us assume that we have a knowledge problem, but I don't think so. I think that we have an alignment problem. And so today I want to talk to you about the concept of internal contradiction. What do I mean by that? Well, we often already know the truth. One thing that I found that never ceases to amaze me, especially about women, is that most of us know what we need. We already know. We just don't need more information. In fact, in our society today, there is an information overload. What we really need is permission to trust that what we already know is what we need to know. We have spent year upon year searching for just the right book, just the right podcast, or another expert to talk to us about the struggles that we're facing, whatever they are. But often the quiet answer, it's already there. It's already inside of us. We already know. When I work with patients in a functional medicine context, well, first of all, I have them fill out this really long 12-page intake form that they all kind of go, wow, that was the longest intake form I've ever filled out. But I do that because I call myself a super sleuth. I need to look for all the clues. Even in the details of my forms, when we get to talking and I ask them more questions and we get to really delve deeper into what's going on. Oftentimes, the body has been whispering long before it starts to scream. So, years before they actually come to find help, the body has been speaking to them and telling them something was not right. But we usually override. Symptoms often are subtle in the beginning, especially. We usually don't know something isn't right before we acknowledge that something's not right. And I think spiritually, it's the same. Totally think that God often works in a similar manner. The still small voice that he speaks to us in, it's often there. It's before the crisis. It's during the crisis. It's in the middle of the storm. He is speaking to us in a still small voice, and we often just override it. We ignore it. We just don't listen. Ouch, that one hurts. It's not a challenge in our hearing. We hear. The challenge is in honoring what we've already heard, what he's already spoken to our hearts, what we've already even witnessed in our own selves. And, we hear him speak and we say, yes, I agree. That resonates. Every time that we override ourselves, we weaken our self-trust. And let me tell you, self-trust is one of the areas that God has really been honing in deep and hard with me lately. Like especially in like functional medicine, for instance, I'll bring that up again. I have 3 degrees and I have multiple certifications and I've taken years, so many different courses and programs. I don't have a lack of knowledge, except that I still question whether I know what I know. That's a self trust issue. That's not a knowledge issue. And honestly, truly, internal contradiction, it's exhausting. It take it from someone who has been there and done that. It is exhausting. And for you, maybe it's saying yes when you really want to say no. It's smiling. Oh, we look smiles on the outside, but really on the inside, we are resentful. It's continuing rhythms that no longer fit. We talked last week about coming back into alignment in some of the rhythms of our life, the seasons that we're entering into, maybe some of the things that we've done in the past, we can't carry them forward into our present, into this season. Sometimes overriding ourselves is things like ignoring fatigue, ignoring peace, ignoring conviction, ignoring that still small voice. And every time that we do that, every time we do it, it teaches us my need does not matter. My intuition, my little inner knowing, it's not trustworthy. And everyone else's voice, well, it's just more important than mine. Eventually, we just stop checking in with ourselves. We begin outsourcing our decisions and we begin giving, looking for ways for permission to accept everything, everywhere, except from within ourselves. We become disconnected with our own wisdom. We don't have a knowledge problem. We probably don't even have a wisdom problem. We have a self trust and a self alignment problem. We have an internal contradiction problem. So, alignment is really returning to the internal agreements. Alignment is not becoming somebody different. We can stay genuinely true to ourselves, but notice the word true. It's becoming honest, honest about what you know, what you value, what your body is saying, what God may be inviting you towards. Again, He created us before the foundations of the earth. He has plans and purposes for us. What is He calling us to in this season? That internal alignment, it creates peace within us, not because every decision that we make is going to come easily and we're going to make it with just, oh, it's just so easy, but because we're no longer divided in ourselves. There's a scripture that says that a house divided against itself cannot stand. Now, that was talking about groups of people, but the same can hold true in our own hearts. When our heart becomes divided, it cannot stand. And what we need to do is take little acts, one small act at a time, where we come into alignment and agreement with ourselves, builds the self trust. It may be something like, I promise myself that in the morning I'm going to get up and do 5 minutes of deep breathing because I know it's good for my nervous system. And I get up in the morning, I do that. And then the next morning I do it again. So one small act, then another adds upon itself, and that self-trust begins to be rebuilt. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen by us making one decision after the other, one at a time, and us following through on our word towards ourselves. So, again, what does it look like if we're living in internal contradiction? Well, it's saying yes when we wanted to say no. It's staying busy to avoid what really matters. It's continuing in relationships that constantly drain us and don't add life to us. It's ignoring our physical exhaustion. It's living in the shoulds, which I tell people all the time, don't should on yourself. That's not very nice. Constantly seeking reassurance before making decisions. Feeling guilty. Hello, feeling guilty when we choose ourselves. Knowing what brings life and yet never ever making space for that. Those are all huge examples of ways that we override and have internal contradiction in ourselves. So, what if internal contradiction is not proof that we failed? We haven't failed. And it's not even like we've become a hypocrite. It's not weakness. Many of these patterns developed over time to protect ourselves. We set up these mechanisms as way to protect ourselves. And so at some point in our life, they actually served a purpose, and it was a good one. They helped us to belong. They helped us to stay safe. They helped us to meet expectations or to care for others. As a young mother I was a single mom with 5 kids for a lot of years. And so a lot of times the things that I did that I just overrode, what I really wanted was really to care for my children. But they're all adults and they all have their own life. Well, what if I'm still doing those patterns, those things that become habitual in a season that I'm no longer in? What if God is inviting us to say thank you to those patterns and then ask the question, do they really still belong in this current season? Curiosity always creates more space for healing than criticism. Listen to the voice that you're speaking to yourself with. I often ask people, would you speak to other people in the way that you speak to yourself? And most of the time people say, well, no, I would never talk to anybody like I talk to myself. That would be horrible. Well, then why are you doing it to yourself? Instead, here's some questions that I'd really like you to begin to answer. Where do I already know the answer? Where am I overriding my inner knowing? What have I been avoiding? Where do my own beliefs and my daily actions no longer match? Where are they mismatched? Where do I consistently, time after time, lose my peace? What truth have I quietly known for a long time, but have chosen to just cover my ears and ignore it? And what would change if I trusted myself just a little bit more? Well, if today's conversation resonated with you, then I would invite you to download my free alignment check. It's a reflective guide that I designed to help identify areas in your life where you may feel out of alignment. And that will tell you where internal contradiction may be quietly creating that tension that we've been talking about. Awareness is the first step towards coming back into agreement with yourself. You'll find the link below. If you just click on that, it'll take you over, fill in some information, and then you can just download that. So let me leave you with these closing thoughts. You don't have to solve every contradiction today. Just simply begin noticing where your life and your inner knowing no longer agree, because every act of awareness is an invitation to stop overriding yourself, and an invitation to begin rebuilding trust, that self-trust that's so important. It's an invitation to return to peace. And ultimately, it's an invitation to come back into alignment with the woman that God has created you to be. I hope this has blessed you, and I will see you next week.